Hi, and welcome to my session, Managing SCOM the PowerShell way, or how my Beware of GUI team learned to stop worrying and love the SCOM. And if you know your movie history, you will get the reference to the movie Dr. Strangelove. My name is Jan Pettersson. I work at Umeå University. I work mainly with Windows systems and 365 components like Exchange, Teams, and so on. And one of my prioritized objects I work with is SCOM and monitoring our environment. In this session, I'm going to talk about how to manage SCOM via PowerShell. And that could be if you want to automate some functionality, or if you think the console is kind of slow to work with, or if you have people who can't install the console, so they have to run the command line, or if you have a Linux team that doesn't like Windows. First, we're going to talk about how to start maintenance mode via PowerShell. And I'm going to do this in 3 ways. First, I'm going to do it for a single server. I'm going to do it for a group, a SCOM group, that is. And this one will be really helpful for you, how to do it for an existing maintenance schedule. You know that in SCOM and via Square App, you can create maintenance schedule where you group a couple of objects, and then you set that I want this schedule to run every Sunday between 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. But the tricky part here is that you can't then right-click that maintenance schedule and say run now. You have to set a date when it's going to start. And I will show you a way how to get around that caveat. Zoom in a little here. Yeah, first we're going to do this for a single server. And first of all, I get the class Windows Server to point out which object I want to target. And then I run this command start SCOM maintenance mode. And I target an instance of the class Windows Server with the display name Al. And I set the end time to be 10 minutes from now, reason, planned other, and I write a comment in maintenance mode. And I run the command, and it will put that computer into maintenance mode. I can also target a group of computers. Here I target the group Windows Server 2012. I don't think I have any of those running in this environment, so it will not be any computers being sent to maintenance mode here. But I do the same thing here. I get the group, I get the instance, and I target all of those instruments to set maintenance mode 10 minutes from now. And here I start a maintenance schedule manually. First, I get the maintenance schedule. Here I have a maintenance schedule that's called my schedule. And then I go through that schedule and take the GUID and get all the objects in that maintenance schedule, all the monitoring objects. And then I get those instances and I put them in maintenance the same way as above. And if I run the command, I get maintenance. Get SCOM maintenance mode. You will see here that I have a couple of objects that are now in maintenance mode. especially this part where you take an existing maintenance schedule and put that into maintenance is really helpful when you do maintenance work outside of the maintenance schedule. I used to just set the date a couple of minutes in the future for that maintenance schedule instead, and then it will run down. But this is much faster and more efficient to do it this way. Moving on. The gray agent curse. You all probably seen this. It's a SCOM agent that doesn't have the status green or red. It's just gray. And this can happen when the monitoring agent health service stops for some reason, stops responding. It gets a discovery that's making it not run as expected, or maybe some kind of network issue that made it lose the connection to the SCOM server temporarily and can't reconnect properly. And what I will do then is to use the solution for this is often to just restart the service. But here I'm going to use a task that comes from the Ops Manager maintenance management pack. And if we go here, first of all, I pick out every agent that is in a state that's gray, and I get the class that's agent and the monitoring object, and is available equals false. That means gray, otherwise it's healthy. And then I check if I have the management pack that contains this task, the Ops Manager Self-Maintenance Management Pack. And if you don't, you have to download it from Cookdown. And here, what I do then is I traverse to every gray agent I get from this command. And then I run get SCOM task. And the SCOM task is made flush health service. And then I start it for that particular instance I got above. So if I run this, it will run quite fast because I don't have any gray agents at the moment that need restarting. But this is really helpful when you have a lot of gray agents. Something happened that made a lot of them go gray, so you don't have to click every agent and or log in to restart the service on them. Then we will move on to this issue where you can't remove a management pack. You go in and you want to remove an old management pack that you're not using anymore. Perhaps the Windows 2012 R2 management pack, you don't use it, so I think I go ahead and remove it. And then you get the error, you can't remove this management pack because it have dependencies. And to get a list of those dependencies, you get a screenshot of them when you try to delete them, but this is a little faster way of doing that. So what I do here is I get all the management pack I have installed. I create a hash table with the reference MP, where I will store all of those. I pick out which MP to remove. In this case, the Microsoft SQL Server Windows Discovery Management Pack. This is just for an example. And then I loop to all management packs, and I check their references. And if they reference the management pack in the MP to remove variable, that is this one, I set the reference true and add that to the hash table. And here I can see that this Microsoft SQL Server Windows Discovery is referenced by the a.scomaton management pack, server diagnosis override, and the monitoring management pack, and the run as management pack, and the overrides management pack. Then I could go ahead and remove these packages first, so I can remove the other one. Or just go ahead and remove the overrides from those management packs at least, so we know what to remove. Could be a faster way of doing that. And then a couple of you are probably using the notification channels. And I have stumbled upon this problem a couple of times where we have a user that's leaving the company or moving to another position or role. And then we get an order that says we want user A to be replaced by user B, and he has to get everything that user A has. And it's kind of tricky to find all the notifications if you have a lot of them that user is assigned to. So I will give you a couple of examples how to handle those via PowerShell. And what we're going to do is we're going to see how to get all the notification channels a user is connected to, where it's located in. And we're also going to try to replace that user with a new user. And we're also going to use a PowerShell command to find if you have any subscribers in the list that doesn't have any active subscriptions. So we could remove those from the subscriber list. And here we have a couple of examples. First of all, we're going to search for a name to get all the subscription that user is connected to. So first I'm going to do an input to get which user I want to search for. And Swedish, vilken subscriber söker du efter? And then I use that to get the ID of that subscriber. And then I get all the subscriptions I have. And I loop to them. And I have included the BCC and CC recipients here as well. And they're probably not used in most cases, but in this example, I'm just using the two recipients to see if this subscriber exists in those. So then I loop to them and see if I find that ID of this user in the two recipients of that subscription. So if I run this, I search for the Janne test. Oh, sorry. And then I can see that Janne test is in the subscription new owner, and he's in the subscription that's called temp. So then I could either go in manually and remove this subscriber from those subscriptions, and then remove the subscriber, and put in the new user in those. or I can do it via PowerShell, and I'm going to do that later. So here I'm going to do a more advanced one of those. And it could be that this subscriber here, I search, in the first one, I search for the name just. But here I'm going to search for the email address. And there could be cases where you have the subscriber is named, you have a subscriber with email, and then you have the same email in the group subscription. You have a subscriber that has multiple email addresses. So if I do like this, then first of all, I get all the subscribers, I get all the subscriptions. I run the command to get the email I want to search for. And then I loop to the devices. That's email in this case. From this command, I get all the subscribers, and then I can look at the property devices to see if the email exists there. And then if the email exists in that subscriber, I then search for that subscriber in all subscriptions. So we get a couple of more results then. And if I run this, I search for my email. Add a like there. So here I get the result that the email I was searching for, Jan.Pettersson, exists in the subscriber that's called Jan Pettersson. And that subscriber exists in all of these subscriptions. And that email address also exists in the subscriber that's called Focus. And that subscriber exists in that subscription. That's the case when the email can exist on multiple subscriptions. So if I want to create a new subscriber then, I want to replace my Janne test with another user. So I will create a new subscriber, Mr. New Guy, with the email nowhere@umu.se. And I create that one. Done. And then I got the order that I wanted to replace the subscriber Janne test with Mr. New Guy. So first I have to get the subscriber Janne test, get the ID, and I get all the subscriptions. And then I get the subscriber I want to replace with. And here I loop through the subscriptions. And if the ID Janne test exists, I add the replace with subscriber, that Mr. New Guy, and I remove subscriber Janne test. And then I update. And here the to update is the description that was containing the subscriber Janne test. And then I use the property to recipients and the command add or remove on that property. And I get here that Janne test exists in subscription new owner and temp, and I add and remove those. So if I now run this one again, and I search for a Janne test, I can see that it's no longer in any subscriptions. So I can remove that subscriber. I could actually do it after this has looped through. So when I removed or replaced Janetess with Mr. New Guy everywhere, I could remove that subscriber to clean up the SCOM. I think it's pretty useful when you're using notification channels. Do you do this? Next thing we're going to look at is event collections. If you have a collection rule that collects events, it's kind of hard to handle them from the SCOM console. So it's a bit easier to use them via PowerShell. And here I have a rule that's called Federation Server Events Collection that collects events from the ADFS server. So first I get the SCOM rule, and then I get all the events that were collected from that rule. Take a little while. A lot of events have coming from that one. This could be any collection rule that you would like to use. And if I then do a count on that one, I can see I have almost 24,000 events. And then I would like to filter those events. And I would like to only keep those that have the words password is incorrect in the description. And then I would only like to see the events that were added the last 24 hours. And then I do a filter on that one. So I get all the events with password incorrect from the last 24 hours. And then I can group those on computer if I would like to do that. Or I can just use this count to get number of events that contain the password is incorrect. Out of those 24,000, it was a bit over 2,000, no, 2,100 events that contained password is incorrect. And then I can group that if I would like to pair ADFS server to get the count from each server to see if it's evenly balanced between the ADFS servers. Also pretty useful when you want to handle data that you collected from collection rule. This one, the first thing I talked about is that I started maintenance mode. And one issue with maintenance mode is that you target maintenance mode to an object and not to a monitor. So it could be the case that, let's say you have a server going to do maintenance work on that one. And then you have another server it will be up and running, but that server has something on it that's dependent on this server. And that monitor will trigger an alert because the first server is down. It could be either a web watcher or a script you run that won't be working when the first server is down. So what you can do then is to just disable the monitor temporarily. So here what I do is I first get the SCOM monitor, and this one is called SQL backup. I get the monitor, and I get the SCOM class of that monitor. You can see the monitor is vCenter SQL backup, and the class is my own PowerShell script class. And then I just check, because this one is contained in a management pack that I created myself, so it's not sealed. So I have to store the override in that management pack. If it was a sealed management pack, I would create the override in my override management pack for that management pack. Run that one. And since this MP is false, oh, first I can do this, by the way. You will see enable here equals true right now. And then I do an override on this one, where I disable the SCOM monitor for the class and store the override in the MP. It will still say enabled here, but if I go over here and go into offering and overrides and search for the SQL backup, I will see that the override value now is set to false. So this monitor won't be running right now. It will be disabled. And when I'm finished with this, I run the same command with enable SCOM monitor. Oh, sorry. I run on the wrong line. This is the one we should enable. Here we go. And then if I refresh here, it will show up. You know, I talked about the SCOM console being slow sometime. There you go. You have the override value set to true, so the monitor is enabled again. This could be useful when you have stuff running on other computers other than the one you're going to have maintenance on, and you want to avoid false alerts when doing maintenance. You can disable that monitor during that time. This could also be used if you have a monitor that runs Havok during night and you want to disable that monitor in a couple of hours, but you want everything else on that computer to still trigger alerts, but not just that monitor, because that monitor usually triggers alerts at night when it's actually working as it should. And then we're moving on how to get alerts from SCOM and display them in the PowerShell prompt. And I have a couple of examples here. First, I run this one. Here I run get SCOM alert, resolution state 0 is new, severity 2. That means critical. And I select the name, time raised, monitoring object path. Oh, can we remove that one? Let's do that one. And where the raised is the last 12 hours. And here I get all the alerts and when they were raised. It's pretty useful. Then you can just export this to CSV or run a script. I want to get all the alerts every morning in an email, for example. And here's another example where you might have people outside of your environment that would like to know which alerts do I have on server X. And here I get all the SCOM alerts that resolution stage 0. I will get all the alerts. I will get the warnings and critical from the monitoring object path with the name ADFS04. And I select time raised, name, severity, description, and I sort them. I can store them in the variable ADFS alert here. And then I can display these alerts. Time raised, name, severity. And then I see here I have a automatic update of trust, automatic skipped with the warning, and so on. And if I would like, I could pick out the description as well from that particular alert. And here we see that this first one, automatic update, has been disabled. We can get out that info. Another example that's often good to use is certificate alerts. Here I use the Enterprise PKI management pack, and I use the SCOM class display name certificate, and then I get all the SCOM monitoring objects with here I don't have any expiring certificates at the moment, so I would run them on health state success instead. And the path like hop. Here I could do a filter on valid to and so on to see only the certificates expiring the nearest month or so. So these are not alerts, it's just status of the certificates. And here I then run select. Oh, we didn't get any. Interesting concept. Let's see. Why didn't we get any? Remove that one. There we go. And we can see here that we have a couple of certificates on this computer. Pretty useful. And then we move on to how to reset alerts and close rules. And this one here, reset the status of monitor. I made an asterisk on this one. You should only do this when your life is in danger. When it's a monitor, it's probably alerting because something's broken. So the real thing you should do is fix the monitor or the cause for the monitor being red instead of resetting the status. But there could be cases where you want to reset the status. For example, when the monitor only runs once a day and you know, I have fixed this, I want to remove this from the alert view so I don't, other people doesn't see it anymore. Rules you can set up in SCOM that you auto close rules after X days. But if you want to close them yourself, you can do that via PowerShell then. And here I pick out all the alerts with the MSQL on Windows database log backup should be performed. This could be that you have had some issues with the SQL backup and you know they're running now, but you want to remove all the alerts so you don't get too many alerts in the view. So I pick out all of those and then I loop through all of these alerts and do the reset monitoring state. And of course, I didn't have anyone there now, so didn't help that much here. And if I move on here, I can do the same thing on a rule. And here I check. Oh, do you have any rules that can be closed? No, the moment didn't have that. Take all the rules then. All the rules. And we run count on that one. We have 26. And then I add the resolve SCOM alert on those. Oh, sorry. And if I run this command again, I will have 0. So now I closed all the alerts that were open. This is just a quick example of how to use SCOM for the CMDB. And here I have a matrix where I entered all the SQL version numbers. So here I will pick out all the OS, the Windows operating system, and I will get all the MS SQL DB engines. And I will loop through those and create a list of which operating system is the server running and which DB engine is it running. And here I can see that my server is running Windows Server 2009, Data Center, and SQL Server 2019. For the source here, I used only servers that has the SQL on them. I could use a CSV file instead. And then I can use this data to populate a CMDB, for example. I will end with a couple of one-liners. And the first one is remove disabled discovered objects. All of you probably know this command. It's called remove SCOM disabled class instance. and this one removes discovered objects where you have disabled the discovery. And it runs pretty fast, so just remove those so you don't have them in your SCOM inventory anymore when you have disabled the discovery. And the last one here is get SCOM management pack where sealed is false, and then export them to a folder. Export all of your non-sealed management packs. Probably will have to have a folder that's named correctly before running that command. There we go. And then we have all our management packs that are not sealed backed up. With that, I say thank you, and I hope you enjoyed my session. And I will see you in the expo. Bye-bye.